In solidarity with the Indian farmers who are protesting peacefully outside the Indian capital of New Delhi, Kisan Ekta Morcha Ottawa has organized a car rally in their support. A convoy of vehicles driven by Ottawa residents took off from the parking lot of RA Centre on Riverside Drive and drove down to the Vanier Parkway before passing the High Commission of India building, where the drivers would slow down to honk and shout their support of Indian farmers. Meanwhile, I was able to connect with the few members of the organizing team to understand what is going on.
Why are we here today?
Uh, we are here today to protest in solidarity with the Indian farmers who are protesting for the last 44 days in India to get the three ordinances which Indian government has passed to get them repealed.
So what's the impact of this rally on the local people over here?
I think the biggest impact is that is awareness for the people. A lot of Canadians are still not aware what's going on in India. It's the biggest rally, biggest protest in the world in the human history ever that's going on in India, and there's tons of people who are not very well aware that what's happening with those laws and what the impact of those laws are on a common man in India.
So how do you think the common man will be affected in future? The common man today thinks this is a battle of the farmers, only the farmers, but it is related to everyone living in India.
So the thing is, the last line of defense in the food security of any country is farmers. So right now everybody's thinking that it's the farmers who are being affected, but once the corporations effectively take over the food production and distribution and selling and buying of the grain, they can control everything. You have to understand that at the end of the day, the end goal of any profit-making corporation is to make profit. You know, we've seen that if we let the corporations take over, they don't care about rules, they create their own rules, and these three laws, they give them a chance to create their own laws, to create their own markets, to create their own notified markets where, you know, they can have their own constitution and they can have their own whatever they want to do. And on top of that, the farmer does not have the right to go to court. If you look at the constitution of the country, in a civil agreement between two parties, a corporation being a civil person, a farmer being a civil person, if you put that in the law that they cannot go to the court for justice, that is against the constitution to begin with. And the government of India, they have agreed that the law has a lot of loopholes, has a lot of issues, which means that they do agree that they made a mistake by bringing these laws in. So why are they holding back and not repealing the law? Once you repeal the law, talk to all the stakeholders, talk to farmers, talk to corporations, talk to the agriculture departments, and once everybody agrees, then present the law in the parliament through the right parliamentary process. Let the opposition scrutinize the law as well, so they find what are the weak points and what are the loopholes in the law. Let them talk about it, and once everybody reaches a consensus, then pass the law. We're not saying that you don't need to do anything in the Indian agriculture sector. You do, but the way they've done it, you know, they took cover of coronavirus and passed an ordinance. An ordinance is usually passed in case of national emergency. There was no national emergency in case of food sector. India just had a bumper crop, the best harvest it ever had, including most of the states, including Madhya Pradesh, not just Punjab. And I think they just took the opportunity. So the government should realize that, you know, whatever they did has backfired. Stop the deaths, stop everything that's happening. Not just the farming, but the other sectors are being impacted as well. Please come to your senses, repeal the laws, and restart the negotiation with all the stakeholders.
Why is this important on the international level to protest this? Like I see protests happening in different countries all over the world. Why is this important?
I think the important thing we have to understand is that this law includes certain clauses which are direct infringement of the democratic rights of people in any democratic country. So the farmers, today's farmer is smart enough to not just read that but also understand that. And so if you read that part and you see that infringement happening, every single person in any democratic country is actually concerned about the infringement of democratic rights in one country, and that too one of the largest democratic countries in the world. So that's not the route democratic world want to take. So I think this is primarily why people are concerned. Secondly, I think people are concerned about the violence that has been leashed upon farmers by a government that is so adamant to keep the laws which they themselves know are flawful. So any violent means against a democratic, peaceful process is a cause of concern for a lot of people around the world.
The government of India is using their full power to not to listen to the farmers. Is this an issue we have seen recently in America, where people bombarded the Capitol, people trying to take over the Capitol? They didn't know what they were doing. And I think this is the same thing that's happening in India. A lot of people, they don't understand what these laws are.
So first of all, the protest happening in India is very different than what happened in US. What happened in US was the outgoing president, their supporters, they wanted to destroy the democracy. They wanted to destroy the democratic way of passing on a power from one government to the next government who has been elected by the people. In India, it's totally different because it's nothing about transition of power. If you look at the protests happening in India, since 46 days they're sitting on the borders of the capital city. They're not being aggressive. They're not shouting any slogans. It's the other way around. The right-wing conservative media is showing them as terrorists, as separatists. We're calling them names. They're trying to instigate them as much as possible because, like Martin Luther King said, the government wants you to be violent, because when you are violent, they have all means necessarily available to them under the law. They can control you, they can put you in prison, they can do this. But when you're not being violent, when you're protesting under your democratic rights, then there's nothing that government can do against you, because you're not disturbing the peace, you're not disturbing the law and order.
The Indian media, some of the media corporations are sold out. They're not reporting on this issue as they should be doing. What are your thoughts on media trying to hide this out?
So let me start with one basic fundamental that is necessary for any democracy to survive on. Media is one of those four pillars where the democracy stands on. So if you do not have a media, you do not have a full democracy. We got to all understand that. Now, so that, having said that, we got to understand that media plays a very crucial role. But over the years, we have seen a pattern of media, not just in India, by the way. You could see that in the US, you can see that in other places where media biases, and not that biases didn't exist before, but media biases have gone so far to either left or right, or to a certain political viewpoint, that it actually has started dividing the society instead of being a pillar to promote the democracy. In India specifically, you can very well observe that in last 6 years, not even a single protest that has happened that has not been branded as either anti-national or terrorist or tukre gang, something like that. So every time there's a tag that media promotes without even having to do a very basic journalism 101 asks you, ask for the evidence before you say a statement. They are not doing that. They are putting tags on people and protesters like anything. Anybody who protests has to be anti-national because it's anti-government who is being supported by corporations who are funding them. So I think the people who are doing the independent journalism now are actually doing a favor to the democracies by bringing the facts out, by bringing out the point of view of the common man, instead of being promoted by the corporations and supported by the money those corporations put into place.
A message to young Canadians, young Indians who have the power to promote this event and take it to the next level?
So my biggest message to all young Canadians, young people in India and young people all across the world is that you have been born and grown up in a time where the society has been divided so much that it's unprecedented. Like when we were growing up, we never experienced things like this. We never experienced extreme right and extreme left. There's nothing centrist anymore. So you have, because we guys, the older people will go, everybody will go, you are the people, you are the future of the world. You have to make sure how the world runs. So you have to stand up for the democratic values of the world. You have to make sure you raise your voice, and you have to go in mass media, you have to go in institutions and make sure that the cracks in the democracy that we've seen build up in the last few years, they need to be filled up. Educate yourself. Don't look at just the CBC or CTV or just some CNN or in India Republic or these channels, because they are government propaganda machines a lot of the times. Read yourself, read books, go to independent media, go to social media. I mean, don't take everything from social media as well, but use your brain, educate yourself, and make sure that when it's your time to take charge of the world is in a much better place, and the world is much more safer place than what it is right now.
Any last few words for?
I think it's amazing. Probably the government expected people to get divided again as before, but what you can see, what's happening in India is the other way around. Actually, it's actually uniting the people all over India. The people from every single state, the farmers from every single state are coming together. So my message to everyone is stay united and fight for your rights.
Thank you.